You are listening to Making It, the path to beauty industry greatness with Canvas Me, where we go behind the scenes to explore the human side of beauty professionals, learn how they found balance in their lives, overcame obstacles, and created communities that transcend the ordinary. Hosted by Canvas Me co-founders Jen and Matt Martinelli alongside Canvas Me directors April and Megan, Making It is your guide to navigating the ever-evolving world of beauty.
Welcome to Making It, where beauty industry professionals are sharing their stories with us. My name is Megan, and I am your host for today's beautiful story. I have the pleasure of sitting down with my good friend, Rachel Wilkerson. She is the director of marketing, placement, social media, all the things at Paul Mitchell the School, Columbus and Cleveland. And she's here to share her story in the beauty industry. It was so awesome, and it is so awesome for me to hear her story about how she started cosmetology school at the age of 29 and went on to do some pretty incredible things. She's also going to share her passion for Rise, which is a project and a space that she has created outside of the industry for survivors of domestic violence. You are going to hear her personal journey with this, and I promise you it is going to be incredibly inspiring. So I can't wait for you to listen. Hey, Rachel, I am so happy that you're able to join us today. I'm thrilled as your friend to really get into a conversation with you and to share with our audience all that you have to contribute to the beauty industry. So I want to kind of start out with a very simple question. Super excited to hear your answer, but do you feel like you've made it in the beauty industry?
So that's such an interesting question. First, I want to thank you just for having me. You know, it is wonderful to just chat with a friend, but also I'm just so honored. Do I feel like I've made it? You know, that's a question I don't think I'll ever feel like I've made it, right? It's like, as soon as you think you've made it, right? We've all been to this point. We're like, okay, well, when I get here, everything's going to be great and I can relax. And then we get there and we're like, well, maybe if I have this big, pipe dream or this next goal. So I don't think you've ever really made it. And if you feel like you have, you might risk stopping growing.
Right, like becoming stagnant.
Yeah, you're like, well, I did it. I'm, 40 or I'm 50. All right, well, now what are we going to do, right? So there's always that next thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can't run the risk of, staying the same. What's that meme? It's like, oh my gosh. I see it at the beginning of like every new year. And it's like the worst place to be right now is the same place that you were last year.
Absolutely. There have been many points where I thought, oh, I hit my big goal. And then you're like, okay, so now what are we going to do, right? Am I going to grow more professionally? Or maybe it's personally, maybe it's taking on passion projects outside of work that tend to somehow then overlap. But I think there's always that next thing that you want to make it to. Yeah. I think that's important.
Absolutely. Great answer. Great way to kick off the podcast. So right now, I know that you are doing all of the things for Paul Mitchell, the School, Columbus and Cleveland. You're in marketing, you are placement, social media, so much. And I want to find out, first of all, like how much you love the role, because I know you do, but about your story, how you got here, and just, share a little bit about that with us.
Yeah. So it's really so interesting. And I think it just ties into the question you asked me, right? You think you've made it. Well, if I look back at my career, I started my career in cellular sales, selling cell phones. Yeah. Before the flip phone existed, at the risk of super dating myself, right? So 20 years old, I started in sales. And I was a single mom, and so I started selling cell phones, launched the very first iPhone ever, which was like revolutionary.
Wow. You get to say you were a part of history. For sure.
Yeah. It was wild, right? And they would say, you have to put an iPhone in everybody's hand. And I remember at that time going, how am I going to get a 7-year-old to buy this iPhone?
Right.
Even a 40-year-old was like, GP, what do I need that for? What is this globe that's spinning? That's what they would tell me. So it was like such an adventure of helping the world see like what it could be. And I grew up in the Cleveland area, and the Northeastern Ohio took a big hit after '08, right? Things changed radically. So I decided at 29, I'm going to explore something I enjoy. And I went to cosmetology school.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did your family think about that transition, that choice?
They weren't really super thrilled.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. My dad was not happy, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you kind of combat that? The reason I'm asking is because I just feel like our industry has changed so much, the perception, and it's so different now. So like, he wasn't happy. How did you combat that?
Well, I've always been very, very strong-willed. So it was one of those, you know what, this is what I want to do. And he'll get over it and he'll come around. He'll be mad for a little bit. But when he sees that I'm serious, right, and that I'm excited and I'm passionate, he'll come around. And I would say he has now, right? But at first, he was not super stoked. I remember at the time my mom was like, you should be a nurse. And I said, Mom, if I cut myself, I'm ready to pass out. Like, I am not your girl. I'm not your girl. So 29, went to cosmetology school. And when I went to school, again, dating myself a bit, we didn't really have social media yet. It was so new.
Right.
So it was your old school, like door to door, going on referrals to check salons. I had this big, huge coffee table book, right? It was like enormous. And like, look at my pictures. Some of them are good, some are bad because, terrible digital cameras. Right. I ended up in a spa in Westlake, Ohio. Beautiful. They have a great reputation. They do amazing things. It was departmentalized. I didn't really understand what that meant at the time. And I loved styling hair, like weddings. That was my jam. Did not enjoy cutting hair. Still really don't love it. That's just my brain. And so I worked really hard as an assistant. And then as I started to earn my chair, it clicked. Oh, okay. If I want to style hair, I have to be cut and style, which means I'm cutting hair most of the time. Or if I don't want to cut hair, I was just color. And it was a pivotal moment that really plays into my role now. Okay. Right? Had I known, I wouldn't have spent a year and a half as an assistant. I was a single mom. And so I was still waiting tables on the side to make ends meet. As you know, you start in this industry, it takes a while before you start making the money.
Right.
So it was at that point, call it divine intervention, whatever you will, I got a job offer in LA.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I need to hear about this.
So it was actually in my old sales and marketing roots. And I asked my kids, I had my 3 boys, and I said, hey, what do you guys think? Do you want to move to California? And of course, they're like, California, that sounds amazing. So I packed 6 suitcases, me and the kids, and we moved across the country. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just got to clap it up for you because that takes a lot of guts.
That's what people have said. I don't, here's the thing. Here's how I see it. A year before I had that offer, my grandmother passed away. Oh. And so I was just in such a space of, I don't want to have regret. And I make most decisions, even to this day, based on best case, worst case scenario, right? Best case scenario. It works out. It's amazing. We thrive. Worst case scenario, maybe it's not for me and I move back home.
Yeah.
Can you live with worst case scenario? Yeah, I can live with that. Right. And so we did it.
Okay. I'm going to be using that in my decision making here. I like that. That's good.
It served me very, very well. My son recently, he was talking about joining the military. He's a lover. I said, best case scenario, you never have to, be duty facing. Worst case scenario, you have to draw a gun on somebody. Can you live with that? He goes, no, I could never. Probably it's a no then, right? Best case, worst case scenario.
Yeah.
So we moved to California, and I was executive assistant to a CEO of a commercial janitorial company. Very left field, right? But the owner he's brilliant, and he is much more focused on philanthropy. So that was the best part. It's like, okay, I have this business so I can support my family, but really he wanted to pursue his philanthropic endeavors. So did that for 3 years, but also LA is expensive. So I got a side gig. I was doing digital marketing for a cybersecurity institute.
Okay.
So I would write all their tweets and Facebook posts and LinkedIn posts and create graphics and all that fun stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
While being a mom as well.
Right. It's expensive. So I've never been afraid of hard work. I cleaned offices on the weekend also. So we did that for a few years, and then it was just time to be back close to family. My siblings were having kids, and I was like, okay, well, let's go back to Ohio. In hindsight, it was great because that was a year before COVID, and it got real scary in California, right? So came back, fast forward, still doing marketing, and then COVID. And I was in commercial real estate.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's a big dive.
Yeah, the whole world stopped, right?
Yeah.
The whole world stopped. Right. So I said, okay, all right, I'm going to go back to college. I'm stuck in the house. What else am I going to do? And I was looking for jobs, and I was like, what do I really want to do with my life? By that point, my children were 19, 16, and 13. And it's like, okay, now what do I really want to do? I have this diverse background, and I stumbled on an admissions advisor position here at Paul Mitchell. And I thought, this is kind of crazy, but it combines this beauty industry knowledge that I have and also sales and leadership.
Yeah.
So I applied, and I had my first interview. I was actually getting on a plane to go to Arizona, and I interviewed with Jessica Doggett and Tiffany French, and that went well. And they said, hey, we want to have a second interview with you and bring in our owner. And so we scheduled it while I was on vacation. And so I got up on this Zoom from Arizona, and I went, oh my gosh, it was Nicole Cumberlander. And I had taken her class way back when I was in cosmetology school. I took a texture class with her.
Okay.
Yeah. They said, oh my God, I know you. I said, I took one of your classes, and she had her big smile, you know how she does, and her face just lights up. And she goes, oh, I do remember, and so we totally just connected and kind of geeked out on like just giving back and all the ways that, these things converge. And I told, who's my now husband at the time, we were on vacation together, I said, I think this job is like suddenly the perfect combination of all my skills. Right. He goes, it's really bizarre. I feel like this role was somehow made for you.
Yeah.
And so I came on board. It was still COVID. It was 2021, doing admissions, and things have just now grown and evolved, which takes me to placement. Right. And it's like, I didn't have somebody to help me do that. There was no Canvas me. There wasn't a placement leader. There was no social media. Right. So to be able to take that experience and help them is just like, it's the best.
Oh, absolutely. And what a story. Like all the twists and the turns and the pivots that you have been through. I mean, I could like listen to that all day. It's awesome. So like I said, I applaud you. I think, I really kind of want to pick your brain a little bit about your current role and being in the school. It's such a unique environment being in a cosmetology school. And I feel like not a lot of people get a glimpse into it. But you bring up a good point of when you are in school, there's not always somebody there to help you, to help guide you with professional development or placement or anything. And that's something that I think Paul Mitchell schools do really well, is having that set leader. So like, how do you, like, what do you attribute the success of your school for professional development? Like how have you guys been successful with professional development and placement?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because I think there's so many critical components, right? The first and most important thing is everything comes top down, right? So having the leadership like Jessica and Nicole, that they empower their team to do the job that they've been hired to do, right? And that's such a rare thing to find, in a leader and in employment opportunities, is they're open to new ideas. They're open to trying new things, going, new avenues, partnering with different companies like Canvas Me. They're like, let's try it, right? And, they really empower the team to just take that and run with it. The other thing really is that we all work together as a team. So we speak the same language. We're a united front. We, really empower and support each other and each other's message. And so when it's coming from multiple people, you get a lot further with the students, right? And in our case, the future professionals. And so coming out of COVID really was interesting because all of the career fairs and the old ways had stopped for a while. So it was kind of like having this blank canvas of like, okay, what's this new normal going to look like? And how are we going to make it work to our best advantage? So, obviously we've partnered with Canvas Me, which has been huge. It's been huge. It gives them a way that they can put all the pieces together, not have this giant book that they're carrying around.
Right. No digital camera photos anymore. Getting them developed.
Yeah. Right. It's a game changer. Are you kidding me? They can just like upload it, view everything, rearrange it, take it over to Lightroom, make some edits, pop it back on there. It's huge. So that's been a really big thing. And in the early stages of us testing it out, you all supported us so well in that. And now we've gotten to where, obviously we've been doing this a few years.
Right.
We have the Pivot Point Lab, so we can just kind of self-sustain. And that's where I go up to Cleveland and I do that as well as here and get everybody onboarded. And that's led to our big success in Beacon. Both schools are big winners every year because day 3 of core in Columbus and day 7 in Cleveland, because I can't be in 2 places at day 3, they're doing their Canvas Me. In addition to the Canvas Me that day, we're teaching Instagram 101 and personal branding. And their Instagram is a graduation requirement. So they have that. Yeah. So they have that additional motivator to like build their portfolio before graduating. Otherwise, they'll put it off because they're so busy studying and, state board.
Right.
It's easy to forget. Yeah,
absolutely. I can totally see where the success comes from. And I've been in a couple of your classes and, they're just awesome. And you really do help guide them, Rachel. So I can definitely see where it comes from. Now let's get into just like being in a school in general. And we know that it's fun, it's crazy, it's always different.
Yeah.
And you're doing a ton of things. So how do you juggle it all? How do you still make the future professionals your focus? And as we always said in Paul Mitchell schools, how do you create magic for them?
yeah, I think, it's an ever-changing thing, right? So, when you have 150 to 160 faces roving in and out all year long, you really have to just keep taking the temperature of the building. What's the vibe? Where's everybody's mental health at? And be ready and willing to pivot and shift. That's probably the biggest thing. For me, I have a lot of spreadsheets.
Yeah.
I love it. I love a good Excel. And it just helps keep me organized and make sure that I'm mixing up the things we're doing, because they get bored if we do the same salons over and over, right? Like, you really have to keep a diverse set of things going on. It's really not taking things personal. That's key.
That's a good point. Good point.
And that can be challenging, right? I mean, just like we try to remember that, hey, they're human. We have to meet them where they are. We're also human, right? So sometimes we can let things really get to us, in all the challenges of the day, taking on other people's emotions. So I think it's really important to remember to not take things personal and to practice as much self-care as we tell them.
Yeah.
Right? And that way we have our full selves to give them, and just trying to keep it fun. This week we've done, today we're doing vision boards and SMART goals. I saw one of the learning leaders had a dance party out on the clinic classroom floor this week. Casual for a cause days, fundraising, and like the offsite community events, right? So it's really just shaking it up all the time, so it's not mundane is the biggest.
Yeah, absolutely. There. I mean, they're there every single day, so you got to make it fun. And I really like that you said about taking the temperature and kind of adjusting to what the vibe is. I think that that's so important. I don't think enough schools, do that and take that into consideration. And it really shows how, like, emotionally strong and intelligent you and the staff are, by allowing that to occur. So really great stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, I kind of wanted to circle back to a couple of things. I know that you have a passion project, something that you do that is so important. And I definitely wanted to bring that up. I think it kind of ties back into your experience with your boss that was philanthropic, who you work for in California. And I don't know if he kind of helped inspire that with you, or how that started, but I'd love to hear more about what you're doing outside of the school.
Yeah. So my big project is called Rise. It is a foundation with a mission to empower survivors of domestic violence and really just bring awareness. So little piece of my story, as I said, I was a single mom. I'm married, but like, I raised my kids by myself. I got married almost 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years in June. So, my boys are now 23, 20, and 17. So I am a domestic violence survivor of 17 years. This year will be 18, actually. And, so 18 years ago, my jaw was broken. Things were really dramatic and intense. I didn't have any family in the area when it happened. And, it's one of those things that many people think it doesn't really happen that often. Or they think, well, there must be a reason, and they'll kind of blame it on social class or education, or they'll blame it on make assumptions and stereotypes, right, about drugs or alcohol or poor choices. And to me, I have seen and spoke to and met so many amazing individuals over the years that have gone through this, and they feel very isolated and alone. And so I knew many years ago that that was something I really wanted to focus on in my life. Um, I do have a strong faith. I am a Christian, and I don't believe that God wastes anything, right? And um, bad things happen because we live in a broken world, but I don't believe anything should be wasted. And so for me, I believe what lives in the dark dies in the light. And so if we can take darkness and we can bring it out, right, then you're empowering those victims, you're empowering the survivors. And when we do that, we take it from the abusers. The abusers, they take advantage of the fact that victims are often not believed, that people don't talk about it, that they're embarrassed, they're going to feel judged or shamed. And that they thrive on that because then they're empowered to keep doing the things they're doing, right? So the more we talk about it and the more we acknowledge what's happening, well, they can't hide that darkness anymore. So for me, it's so important to really just get that message out, to be vulnerable. It's not always fun to go like, oh, well, let me tell you my story, right? It can feel very, you just don't know what to expect, what the receiver is going to think. But I think being vulnerable and being comfortable and open, it gives somebody else hope.
Right.
Oh, well, I'm not alone, right? Okay, you got past it, so I can get past it. And I started making content on it and putting it out there on social a few years ago. Which I'll be honest with, it's had some difficulties. Yeah, because you are being vulnerable and putting it on the internet. And I've had so many women reach out to me, DM me, women that I know, women that I don't know, women that have been in leadership roles above me, and I had no idea the things that they went through. Wow. And that just reaffirmed, right? The whole mission of this project is you have no idea how many people it touches. It's 1 in 3 women. That's big. That's huge. That's shocking, actually. And COVID, right? COVID brought a lot of that to the surface even more because you have people trapped in their prison. The place that they didn't want to be, they were trapped and they had, nobody to kind of maybe see a bruise or notice something is off. So the goal really, is to empower others, to bring more awareness, to get the conversation going. And then the ultimate big picture goal, right? When have you made it? Never going to make it. I'm always going to keep getting bigger, is to build a community of doctors and plastic surgeons so that we can give medical treatment to remove external scarring that insurance just simply doesn't cover, right? In my case, the insurance said, okay, your jaw's broken. We'll do this surgery. Your teeth are stained and they don't look good, but that's not important, right?
Oh, wow.
And so I hated my smile for 15 years. I would never open mouth smile like this. Are you crazy? Never. Until I finally found, a safe space dentist who, really just went above and beyond. And it radically changed my life. And that's when I realized that's what we need to be doing for other people. It's a reminder of trauma. It's a reminder of shame. And unfortunately, insurance sees it as cosmetic, right?
Wow. Yeah. I keep repeating the word wow, and I'm so sorry. I think, thank you so much for your vulnerability, for your openness. I want to say that I didn't know the extent of your story, and I just appreciate you being open with me about it, so thank you for that. And I think that you've shared a really strong message, and Rise is, I follow the page. I love what you're sharing and doing, and I think that more people should see it, and hopefully it grows. I know it will grow to the point that you want it to, because I know you and your determination and motivation about it. I think because as I look to close this session, I think that you answered this question already because I was going to ask, what is your purpose? And I feel like you just did. But no, you can elaborate more.
For me, it's actually it's very general, right? My purpose, it's something I've tried to really concisely formulate for a long time. I think we all do. But my purpose is really just planting seeds, whether it's here with the future professionals, with my coworkers, in the community, with survivors. It's just planting seeds. And, going back to the don't take it personal, it's really easy. Sometimes we get in a rut, right? And we don't see change happening fast enough. I want it now.
Right.
But remembering sometimes we're planting seeds that we'll never see grow, right? But we're here for them now. And the hope is that it grows in out in the world, right? It's just remembering we're planting seeds.
Oh my gosh. I love that. And I feel like you never think about it in that way of you might not be around to see the actual tree grow or the final project or the end result. And that's okay, and that's something kind of crazy to wrap your mind around too.
It's a hard one. I've worked on it for a long time. A dear friend of mine, she is a therapist and a life coach, and we do domestic violence trainings together. We're doing one this weekend actually for a local nonprofit, but she told me about this idea. It's called a glimmer.
Okay.
So we normally talk about gratitude, right? And looking for these big things. And she told me one day, she said, I heard of this thing. It's called a glimmer. And so we're always looking for this big, I'm so grateful for my raise, or I'm so grateful, this big thing happened. But a glimmer is those tiny little nuggets, right?
Yeah.
So it's last week I got an email about a grad who graduated over a year ago, this positive feedback. That to me was a glimmer. It's wait, you just have to find those little glimmers, right?
Yeah.
And remind yourself over and over, and sometimes over and over, depending on the day.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Rachel. Well, thank you so much. This has been inspiring. It's been thoughtful. It's really left me with a lot of just inspiration and knowledge. And I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us this afternoon. So thank you again.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Making It, the path to beauty industry greatness with Canvas Me. Our mission is to give you a voice, help you find your place of belonging, and empower you to thrive in this beautiful industry. We hope you found inspiration and valuable insights that will fuel your own journey in your career. Head over to canvasme.com and unlock the next chapter of your beauty journey. Create your portfolio, showcase your unique talents, and connect with a community that understands and celebrates your story. Subscribe to Making It for more inspiring stories, and let's continue making it together.